So here we are, looking at the next section of Book 9. In this section, Eve has a discussion with Adam about the benefits of them working separately for a short time in the library, in the Garden of Eden. We need to consider, as we go through this section, Eve's agency, her independence, and the idea of free will. If man has free will, then woman should have it as well. Before we dive in though, let's have a look at this little bit of debate, which for our exam for A-level OCR literature comes under the heading AO5. Remember, AO5 is only worth about 12.5%, but it does allow your essays to be raised, you know, to feel more literary and more mature. So I've taken this from the British Library webpage, where they discuss the hierarchical distinctions between Adam and Eve. And we're invited here to look at Satan and his view of Adam and Eve in Book 4. Not equal, as their sex not equal seemed. For contemplation he and valour formed. For softness she and sweet attractive grace. He for God only, she for God in him. So they look different. He looks as though he's made for thinking and for bravery. She's made to look soft and attractive. And in terms of context here as well, our context can be Book 4. He for God only, she for God in him. It's a really good quotation to learn. Eve, the descriptions of Eve with her hair being dishevelled in wanton ringlets kind of already predisposes us to think of Eve as a potential problem. So let's see how that description fits the way that Eve is going to talk throughout the rest of this section. Okay, so how do we meet our primordial parents? We meet them as they wake up, and along with all of the other creatures in Eden, they begin to sing. They begin to give praise to their God. Now this is an important point contextually, because Milton was of the view that you should be able to worship God in your own way, that should come from within. And so this is very much celebrating that act of independent worship. And then they have what I jokingly refer to as the kind of couples discussion. And sometimes in class I'll ask the question if you recognise this from discussions that your parents might have perhaps on a Saturday morning, as you begin to flesh out your plans for the weekend. What have you got planned today? And one parent says, well, I thought I'd mow the lawn and maybe clean the car and do a bit of, I fancy a new pair of shoes. And then the other parent might say, okay, that's good, yeah, I'll help you with the car if you help me put that shelf up in the bathroom, and then maybe tonight we can have a takeaway and watch an Avengers movie. That idea of figuring out what you're going to do. So when this poem is spoken about as being a domestic epic, it's those little attentions to detail that we're focusing in on. They then commune how that day they best may ply their growing work. For much their work outgrew the hand's dispatch of two gardening so wide. So Eve's got a bit of a plan. And Eve says, Adam, well may we labour still to dress this garden, still to tend plant, herb and flower, our pleasant task enjoined, but till more hands aid us, the work under our labour grows luxurious by restraint. This is a bit too big of a task for both of us, Adam. Even though we try and do our best, a night or two later, everything just keeps growing and becoming a bit too much. So what's the solution? Well, pretty obvious one really. Let's split up. Let us divide our labours. Much of the emphasis here is on work. Eve is not trying to shirk her responsibility. Far from it. And she even says to Adam, you go where you want to, where choice leads thee, or where most needs, or where you can see that the garden needs most attention. Meanwhile, I will wander off to those roses over there that I've got all mixed up with the myrtle, and I'll try and figure that out. And we'll just do that till noon, just do that till lunchtime, because you know what? When we work together, we get distracted by looking at each other and smiling, or finding something new. And then the hour of supper comes unearned. This is a pretty big deal for the whole Protestant work ethic, that whatever comes to you must be worked for and must be earned. And I think we hear that coming through in Eve's concerns here. Now, understandably, Adam's got a little bit of an issue with this, but he gives a mild answer, and he's very flattering. Soul, Eve, associate soul, to me beyond compare, well hast thou motion. You know, it's a good idea, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, because actually nothing lovelier can be found in woman than to study household good and good works in her husband to promote. So you're doing the right thing, Eve. You're thinking about how best you can support your husband. Those 3 lines are really, really key. They go back to the idea of the woman being subservient to the man and supporting him. And they even help us make a connection there with Milton's divorce tracts, where he argued basically if a woman couldn't do this, then that was grounds for divorce. Nothing to do with sexual incompatibility. It was to do with spiritual and intellectual incompatibility. But, and there's always a but in it, yeah, good idea, Eve, really good that you're supporting me, but it's not like the Lord has said when we should work and when we shouldn't. He's not said when we're allowed to stop and have a break. And in fact, that we do keep being distracted by each other, then that's a good thing, because love is, you know, not the lowest end of human life. He didn't want to make us for irksome toil, but he wanted us to delight in what was around us. And as long as we can keep the paths clear until we have children who can help us, then really we shouldn't be too worried. But he does end this section by saying, well, you know, if you do need a bit of time on your own, to short absence I could yield. For solitude sometimes is best society, and short retirement urges sweet return. You know, sometimes it's good to be on your own, and it will mean that you've missed me and you'll be happy to come back. So what's the problem then? Why doesn't it just end there and off Eve goes? Because Adam has remembered the warnings. He's got another doubt. Lest harm befall thee, severed from me. If I'm not there to protect you, what might happen? Thou knowest what hath been warned us, what malicious foe, envying our happiness, and of his own despairing, seeks to work us woe and shame by sly assault. He's probably somewhere nearby now, watching us, and is desperate to find us separated. Now, whether his first design, Satan's, be to withdraw our fealty or loyalty from God, or to disturb conjugal love, than which perhaps no bliss enjoyed by us excites his envy more, or this or worse, leave not the faithful side that gave thee being. Bit of a reminder there, you know. Leave not the faithful side that gave thee being. Remember who made you, Eve. And I still protect you. And again, these 3 lines here, I would be underlining in your book. the wife, where danger or dishonour lurks, safest and seemliest by her husband stays, who guards her, or with her the worst endures. This is how the marriage will work. The wife will do as she's told, and then the husband can either protect her or at least suffer with her. Notice the use of the word dishonour there. Why would it be dishonourable to Eve if she were approached by Satan? And also notice earlier on where Adam points out that perhaps the one thing that Satan wants to do is split them up while they're having sex, because no other activity that they enjoy incites his envy more. So how's Eve going to respond to this? She's going to be a bit annoyed, actually. She says, I know we have an enemy. Not only did I hear the angel telling you about it, but you've told me about it as well. But I didn't think that knowing about this enemy would lead to you doubting me. And if he does attack me, his violence, being such as we, not capable of death or pain, can either not receive or can repel. Why should I be worried about him? He can't hurt me. His fraud is then thy fear, which plain infers thy equal fear that my firm faith and love can by his fraud be shaken or seduced. So you actually, because you assume he's going to do this, your automatic leap is that I will be taken in, says Eve, and she's annoyed. Thoughts, which how found they harbour in thy breast, Adam? Where's this come from? Where's your evidence for this? Now I imagine Adam's backtracking a little bit. He's offering healing words. He calls her daughter of God and man, immortal Eve. He said, for such thou art from sin and blame entire. He said, well, it's not that I don't trust you. He says, I just don't want you to even have to suffer the attempt, because that would be dishonourable to you. Please don't think that it's because I don't trust you. But, continues Adam, what we have to remember is that this is a being who managed to seduce angels. Okay? He's got some skills, this guy. Now, if I were with you and this happened, then I would be empowered just by looking at you. I would become, knowing I had to protect you, more wise, more watchful, and stronger. If I couldn't protect you, the sense of shame would lead me to utmost vigour. So, if this attack is going to come, then let's not have it happen while I'm not there to show you how manly I am. Now, this is where Eve departs from perhaps the stereotypical image that we have of her just being a bit stupid and naive and wandering off and eating the apple. Because she says, if this be our condition, thus to dwell in narrow circuits straitened by a foe, how are we happy, still in fear of harm? This isn't living, if we're worried about where we can go and whether we can separate from one another. But harm precedes not sin. Only our foe, tempting, affronts us with his foul esteem of our integrity. His foul esteem sticks no dishonour on our front, but turns foul on himself, who rather double honour gain. So surely I'll look better to you and in the eyes of God if he does attempt to attack me or seduce me or win me round, and I'm able to repel him. So she points out that this is not Eden if we can't be free to make our own choices in it. Frail is our happiness if this be so, and Eden were no Eden thus exposed. Now at this point, Adam reminds Eve that can't possibly be the case because God has made everything perfect. Therefore within himself the danger lies, yet lies within his power. Against his will he can receive no harm. It all comes down to us and our individual choices, and we can be as free as we want within those, I guess, as long as we still make the right choices. And this is the important bit. But God left free the will. For what obeys reason is free, and reason he made right, but bid her well beware, and still erect, lest by some fair appearing good surprised, she dictate false, and misinform the will to do what God expressly hath forbid. Not then mistrust, but tender love enjoins that I should mind thee oft, and mind thou me. Let's unpick that a little bit. We have free will. And the reason we have free will is because we've also, unlike the animals, been given reason, the ability to arrive at our own decisions through reason, logic, intelligence. But he says that sometimes reason might dictate false. And that's why, Eve, you need me, Adam, to mind you, and you mind me. Firm we subsist, yet possible to swerve, since reason not impossibly may meet some specious object by the force suborned, and fall into deception unaware, not keeping strictest watch as she was warned. And this is the thing, isn't it? That you can still be tricked if you are deceived. I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, is that necessarily Eve's fault? We'll often discuss in class, won't we, this idea that in order to know what deception is, you've got to have experience of it. And if the first time Eve is deceived, she falls for it, can we blame her? Adam, I think, becomes a little bit more petulant here. He says, seek not temptation then, which to avoid were better, and most likely, if from me thou sever not. So why are you going looking for trouble when you know that if you stay with me, we're probably going to be okay? Wouldst thou approve thy constancy, approve first thy obedience. Now this is really important. As the woman, as the wife, the best thing that she can do to prove how good and constant she is to obey her husband, because you know what? He's always right. But basically, if you think that I don't want to keep you here, I'm not forcing you to. I'm not going to make you stay here if it's against your will. And he tells her that she can go, but he says, rely on what thou hast of virtue, summon all, for God towards thee hath done his part. Do thine. All that there. God made you, and he made you as perfect as he could. It's on you now to do the right thing. And Milton kind of suggests that Eve needs no further kind of, with thy permission then, off she went, la 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 la. But she does end by saying, look, I really don't think that he's going to come for me, because that's a bit embarrassing for him. He's going to look for you. Thus saying, from her husband's hand, her hand, she dropped, she removed, and off she went. Oh, into danger. Now, if you're watching this because you are one of my students, not just because you fancied learning about some Paradise Lost, then I may have set you a homework to rewrite the conversation in modern English. If you can, try and embed some of the key quotations so that you get used to writing them out for your exam. So that's it. That's our introduction to Eve's departure from Adam in Paradise Lost. I bet you can't guess who she's going to meet next.